Hello, everyone. Excuse me. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this audio podcast. This audio podcast is part of a Biome edition. This audio podcast is part of a Labostix Vortex. This audio podcast is part of a Phantom newscast. This audio podcast as part of the Abstrax, and this audio podcast as part of a Storm Labostix production. In 2017, an abstract had been put forward for the annual British Blood and Transfusion Society, BBTS, BBTS, sort of the BBTS sort of remit, and the abstract was the abstract in regard to the need to consider renal health in transfusion care and research to inform best practice had also been had also formed part of works in regard to a sort of an article published a in the BBTS's in the BBTS's sort of public journal publication, in the BBTS journal, or one of the BBTS's journals, remits, one of the BBTS journal remit being bloodlines. And so as part of this audio podcast, to just provide just to highlight some of the just to highlight the some aspects of the abstract. So the abstract is as thus. So an estimated 15 million recipients in the United Kingdom have at least one long-term condition or long-standing condition or chronic illness, and the number of recipients with multiple long-standing condition or chronic illnesses has been amongst the literature has been evidence set to rise or increase from 1.9 million in 2008 to 2.9 million in around 2018. Some recipients cannot receive or refuse sort of or refuse transfusion, and there are no sort of universally accepted treatment guidelines for managing care in such recipients, and this is the case in this is the case in amongst sort of transfusion sort of or where transfusion research in regards to where transfusion research is also concerned. The objectives in regard to this or part of this abstract was to highlight the need to consider renal health in transfusion care and research to inform best practice, and where the aims sort of the additional sort of aims were: one, to understand what further aspects of care are required for recipients with long-term conditions or chronic illnesses; two, highlight what practices would support the development of transfusion care guidelines; and three, to provide an understanding of treatment alternatives, taking renal insufficiency into consideration. In regard to the sort of methodologies, around this, 450 abstracts were identified, 274 publications, 274 publications or papers were cross-examined using a critical appraisal skills program, and 82 papers 82 papers or publications were evaluated to number one, understand what needs more consideration for recipients with a long-term conditions or long-standing conditions and chronic illnesses. Two, what practice again what practices will help develop transfusion care guidelines, and three, to provide an understanding of the sort of present indications for red blood cell transfusion or red blood cell transfusions. And the themes in regard to the sort of analysis, part of the analysis, there were part of the analysis, there were upon the analysis, there were themes had been drawn. Number one, or theme one, lack of renal health in transfusion care strategies for recipients with chronic illnesses. Number two, on managing anemia in chronically ill and untransfusible patients or recipients. Three, alternatives and indications for red blood cell transfusions. And four, the importance of research in leadership and management. In regard to sort of the discussions and conclusions of part of the abstracts, as part of the abstract, studies are required to understand whether recipients will benefit from alternative treatments, and in regard to the conclusions, scientists with transfusion care expertise should provide context on the importance of renal health. And so, in regard to sort of some of the terminologies, some of the main terminologies that can be used to identify similar works and in amongst the literature include blood transfusion, renal health, and renal health and red blood cells, and the terminology sort of best practice. That draws this audio podcast to a close. This audio podcast is part of a Biome edition. This audio podcast as part of a Labostix Vortex. This audio podcast as part of a Phantom newscast, and this audio podcast as part of the Abstrax, and this audio podcast as part of a Storm Labostix production.